Welcome enamel friends to a new tutorial. This particular tutorial we are going to be making a very sweet and colorful bracelet featuring wonderful little hearts and lots of blending and just a really sweet color palette. Inspired by one of my students was here last week and she was really focused on making some really sweet hearts in her jewelry. And so I also made one little piece and I was so inspired by it that I thought, oh gosh, I have to turn this into a tutorial. So let me show you what I made really fast. We're not doing specifically this. This is just the little piece of cloisonné enamel that I made last week along with my student. And I thought this would make a perfect bracelet. If I made a few more of these, maybe did it as a champ-levé, it would just be perfect. Perfect for summer too. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's start by having a closer look at the inspiration for this bracelet. I made this last week and I just love how colorful it is. It's very cheerful and summery. And this particular piece that I made last week is just plain cloisonné. You can see that there's no edge around it. And I absolutely could fabricate a sterling silver setting for that. But what I really wanted to do was create a more inclusive design that was kind of all in one. And so we're going to do it as a champ-levé bracelet, and we're going to do it in a different way than I normally do my champ-levé pieces. As if you've done any of my tutorials, you know that you're thinking to yourself, oh gosh, Sandra, that is going to be very challenging to saw out these very narrow pieces. And I agree. And it also will take a lot of silver. So to try something new, we're going to, instead of sawing out our top pieces out of fine silver sheet, we're going to bend round fine silver wire in place and fuse that. And that way we'll get a very uniform and simple and elegant exterior for our pieces. Just FYI, I am going to be making a full kit for this that you can purchase on Etsy. There's going to be two versions of this kit. One will just be the colors that you are using, and then I'll also have a deluxe kit that includes the silver and all the little components that you need to actually fabricate the whole bracelet. So definitely check that out on my Etsy page. We're going to get started fabricating our bases by bending. We're going to start with, this is 16 gauge fine silver round wire. You could also, that is 1.29 millimeters. I went a little bit tall because I know we're going to do some pinks, and this is honestly what I had in the studio, but you could absolutely also do this with 18 gauge round wire. That would be 1 millimeter, but I wouldn't go any thinner than that because you want to make sure you have enough depth in your design to get all those really luscious pinks. And so you can see it's kind of a little wiggly, and I kind of wanted to have a nice uniform curve all around. So I had to look around my studio for something round, and I found this little holder, and I thought I'm going to use this to just, because this is really beautiful and soft wire, I'm going to give my wire just a gentle curve over this form. See how that is good? I'm going to go ahead and do this side. And I think you're going to need about 24 inches total for the project, but I will let you know in the show notes exactly how much you need. So we have a beautiful curve that we're started with. And I'm going to go ahead and just for this, you don't necessarily have to do this. I'm only doing this just to make my life a little bit easier. I'm going to cut it in half so it's easier to work with. So I've got that. And you can see I've done two tracings. I've got 3 large components on my bracelet, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of square shapes. And this will be the same shape, just reversed around. So we're going to use this as our template. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, this is your project and you get to decide exactly how it's going to be. And so I'm going to start by, but generally try to make them uniform if you so desire. I'm going to use my large round nose pliers because I want kind of a soft bend here, and I'm going to just start by pinching that to conform to the shape. It's really nice and soft, and that looks good. And I've got my Sharpie, and I'm going to start by trimming this, and then I'm going to mark where I'm going to be bending this. So let's start by trimming this edge right here, and then bending this edge. Let's see if I want it to be right on the inside. Yeah, right there. Using one finger to just twist that around. It's a little bit, there we go. Push this in a little bit. That looks good. And then I'm going to do the same thing right here. Bend this piece so it meets up with the other one. And then I will make it just like that and trim it. And now you can take as much time as you want and kind of finesse the shape a little bit. I'm going to grab my flat nose, jade nose pliers, and just kind of twist this, make sure these are a little bit more uniform, just like, and so this could be a little bit more crisp. That. That looks good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and make 1, 2, 3 of these, and also 4 of these, and then we'll do the next step. I've got all of my wires bent, and now before we move any further, there's just a few little tweaks we have to do. The first is right where I snipped it. You can kind of see that it's not I want it to be a little bit more flush. So I'm just going to take a little moment, open that up again, and get in there. This is just a diamond grit file, and just smooth out. It really depends on how good your flush cutters are. Mine were leaving a little bit of a nibble on there. So you're going to go in on each of those little guys and get all those edges. And then also, I'm going to see how this is very round and a little bit torqued. I'm just going to take a moment and gently put this between 2 steel plates and give it I'm not trying to flatten it too much, but I do want to, give it a little bit flatter profile, not completely flat. That'll just give us a little bit more surface area. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for all of these, and then we'll move to the next step. I've got all of my shapes ready to go, but we're not quite ready to start fusing. We have to think about how we're going to connect these little links together. And we're going to, I've already made a sample one. We're going to be using these little shapes that we're about to make, and we're going to fuse them at the same time because it's all going to be one easy piece. And so we're going to go ahead, and we need to have 26 of these, and we're going to use whatever we used gauge wire for the exterior. We're going to make some little circles in that same gauge. And let me show you how I'm gonna do that. I'm using a tool that, you know, like you have a tool that you it was kind of expensive and you very rarely use it. And I don't care that you probably don't have this tool. I'm gonna use it because I so very rarely use it. It is a jump ring maker. So I've got more of my 16 gauge round wire, and I'm going to come over. Oh, check this baby out. This is a sweet little, this is a jump ring. This will make a million jump rings. Well, maybe not a million. And we're gonna start by deciding what size mandrel we wanna use. I'm gonna be using this drill bit. This is about 2 millimeters thick. It'll be just fine. And I'm going to go ahead, let me show you how this little works. You can just wrap this around here by hand. You could use your round nose pliers. All of those are great options, but I'm gonna use this jump ring maker just because I can and it's exciting. I'm just gonna start by bending giving myself a little hook right here. And I'm going to put this in so I have not the drill bit part, but the smooth part. Put you right in here. And before I start tightening you up, I'm gonna just put this little piece of wire, this nibble that I made, right in there and tighten them all together. There we go. And now it's just a matter of turning the handle and holding it nice. So how many did I say we needed? 26, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We'll have to do this twice. 17, 18, 19. So we need 6 more on top of that. And wasn't that fun? That was pretty much, that made my day using this tool. And then you loosen it up and you pull out your ready-made jump rings, and we'll snip these apart. I'm gonna go ahead and make one more little batch of these, and then we'll snip them apart, sand them, and goodness, move on to the next step. So I've made these incredibly satisfying shapes, and we're going to break them up. And since we're not actually making full jump rings, I don't have to really be too careful about how I'm snipping these. I'm going to just cut these with my flush nose pliers, and we'll close them. I'm going to do them one at a time and just let them fall down. So I've got a few. I'm going to move forward. I'll finish these up. And you can see that they are not flat. They're kind of open and kind of torqued a little bit. So I'm just going to, you can either flatten them with your parallel pliers. I'm just going to bring, because we still have our small, just going to gently, and you have to be careful not to overdo this because you could really squish these because they're pretty small. Excuse me while I tilt up. And just flatten them a little bit. That'll get them ready to go. So they are nice and flat. And then the final thing I just need to do is I'm going to trim them because they're going to go flush up. And I'm going to just eyeball it. Just see right here. I'm going to snip them with my flush nose pliers, trying to make them all exactly the same size. And while I have it in my hand and I have my little file, take a moment because you can see where you trimmed it, there's just a little bit of a ridge. I'm just going to file that off. So I'm going to do that with all of these until I have 26 of them. It's always more than you think, because I was like, oh, how many of them? I bet I need about a dozen. No, it's 26. one, because we're going to do a single thing at the end. So I'm just going to tuck into these, get these finished up, and we'll move on to the next step shortly. I've got all of my little connectors done, snipped, and also filed. Now we're ready to start assembling all our pieces in preparation for fusing. And the first thing that they're already flat because we pretty much flattened everything. But the next thing I want to do is I want to do a little bit of sanding, and you can just use regular sandpaper. I'm going to use this sanding disc. This is 60 microns, so just about 600 grit will be just fine. And just the side that's going to be getting fused. So we're going to do all of those. I'll do one more. And we do want to sand our little connectors and our wire bits, but you know, this is going to be just a little too aggressive. So to sand these, and it doesn't take much. I'm just going to get a regular piece of sandpaper. Let's just get our little drawing out of the way and just set it on the table. And I've marked the front with these little, so I know where the connectors are going. And I'm just going to sand the one side that's going to get fused down very gently. And I'm going to do that for all of these little guys. And then also, you know, as these little guys will get a little sanding on one side as well. And one more. Excellent. So I'm going to sand all of this, and then we're almost ready to fuse. Everything's sanded. One final step, and I don't think we need to wipe these with the isopropyl alcohol, but I am going to go ahead and clean my bases with the alcohol just to make sure there's no fingerprints and whatnot on there. So anything you can do to make your fusing a little bit easier, especially if it's something so simple as cleaning your silver, it's definitely worth doing. All nice and clean. We are ready to start assembling these little guys. So let's come in over here. And we'll start with these bigger ones. I've got my fusing liquid. This is a combination of cupric acetate and clear fire. There is a video on how to make this stuff. And this is optional, although it's very handy to have. The copper solution, when you heat it up, it creates kind of a eutectic bond between the silver molecules and will help fuse a lot easier. I'm going to move my drawing out of the way so I don't get that all messy. And what I'm going to do is, let's see, the easiest way to do this without messing it up. I'm going to start by flipping this over. Here we go. I wonder if we should do a dipping method. We'll see. We're going to just try the painting method. Just gently putting a bead of the fusing liquid right on there. And then let's just see if we can carefully flip it over and set it. Oh, that's not bad. That'll do. And then we're going to position our little guys, the connector things, and I'm going to just paint a little bit of this fusing liquid right here. And I'm going to do 2 connectors on each side. Push them just gently up Same thing goes. Like that. Let's do the other side. A little bit of fusing liquid. Perfect. Now we're going to let this dry, because we don't want to have any moisture in here when we heat this up for fusing, or else everything will kind of get jumbled and gone akimbo, if you know what I'm saying. So we're going to finish up all of these, get everything attached, and then I shall meet you at the torch of the fusing station. The exciting part is just about to happen. So take your time with this. One thing, I would just make sure that you have the same distance, because remember, we need these to connect. So if this is 3 millimeters, make sure that all of them are 3 millimeters apart, so your links will meet up nice and tidy. So we will be right back. As you can see, I've got all of these assembled and ready for fusing, and I'm going to let them dry. One last thing to note, remember our end, the two ends of the bracelet, this side and this side, are only going to get one connector. So you can see this piece, I just did one, and then over here, one as well. So we're going to let this dry really well, and I'll meet you over at the torch. We are all ready to start fusing. You can see that I've kind of created a little grill area using these 5 kiln bricks, but you could also just use a straight up a ready-made tripod. This is just a little bit sturdier, and I can get a few more pieces all at once. Gives me a little bit more area to work with. And I'm using my acetylene torch with a size 1 tip. And you know, there's only one way to get this done, is to get started. So let's fuse these guys. I've got kind of a nice bushy flame, a little bit. These are very small and delicate pieces, so we don't want to, we run the risk of melting them, not gonna lie. So we're gonna take it a little bit slower and a little bit more considered. So I'm gonna start here. I've got my pick in one hand, and I generally will be either, I don't wanna be messing these, scooching these around until I'm sure that they're at least kind of tacked down. So I'm not going to be messing with the pick just yet. And I'm generally either heating, or if I want to mess with them, I'll pull, see, I've just pulled it off. It's not heating anymore. And the first thing, you're just going to keep it moving. These aren't that big. And you can see that the fusing liquid's turned black, and that's going to burn off. And the piece is kind of starting to be a little bit of a brick red color. Now I'm really paying attention. And what I'm looking for is a little bit of melting, like not melting, but a flash, a shininess. And so I'm just gonna keep, I'm not gonna linger anywhere. I'm just, there we go. See right there? Well, a little bit. Let's, heating it up. There we go. Right now we're just going to see if we can pull that all the way around. We may not get these all in the first go, because this wire is kind of round. There we go. See, I'm kind of dragging it counterclockwise around. And so once I'm convinced that it is at least tacked down, I might just call it, because we can always flatten it and take it a second time around. There we go. But you know how I like to just take it to the edge. A little bit more over here. And I'm just pulling the melting around. There we go. All the way through the center. All right, that's good. Let's move on and do this one. Never feel like you need to push it, push it, push it. If it's not happening, if the piece of wire is, you know, sticking up, just get it tacked down, move on to the next one, come back to it, because you can flatten it between the steel plates and try again. That's the beauty of working with fine silver, is it doesn't turn black when you heat it up. So we're gonna get this one. And I'm just taking my time. Unclench your jaw. Remember, this is fun. We love doing this. And this is going to be a beautiful bracelet. Taking my time. There we go. See, now we're starting. I'm going to keep going around and around. When things start melting, remember, we don't linger. We just, it'll follow. The melting will kind of, we're like a parade of fusing. The melting will kind of follow where your torch is. So your torch always wants to be one step ahead. So we're just kind of bringing it all the way around. There we go. One more time around. And then I'm going to pull it all the way through the center. There we go. I haven't decided if we're going to be doing a hand texture or foils. Probably foils. You know how much I like foils. That's good enough for now. Wait, hold on. I say that's good enough. I'm going to do one more little bit. Here we go. One more little nibble right on that corner. See if I can get that. Beautiful. Now these smaller ones, I'm going to start with this one. They're not going to take as long because they're smaller. So just, that's why I kind of started with the bigger ones, just to kind of get a handle on how things were going to be. See how much faster they're heating up? These are probably going to be, you have to be a little bit more careful. Because when it starts, it's going to start fast. There we are. There we go. I'm just kind of doing it and pulling it away. There we go. I'm probably not going to pull it through the center. I think that's good. Let's go ahead and get this fourth piece. I was a little bit messy with my fusing liquid on this one. There we go, just gently. Once things start melting, you have to, oop, almost melted it. I do want to press it down. No, we'll do it later. Beautiful. We're going to let these, I've got 3 more to do. I'm going to do those. We're going to let these cool and we'll have a look, because I bet a few of them are going to need a second go at it. So I'm going to get those fused and then we'll take a look. We'll be right back. So these are all nice and cool. So we're going to have a little look at each of them and see who needs to get another go at it. And what I'm doing is I'm going to look at and see if there's any gaps in this area here, and also where the connectors are, because we don't want anything to fall apart. And you can see there is a little gap right here. And other than that, that looks good. So you can decide if it's a tiny gap like that, you can probably just forget about it. It's not a problem. whatsoever. So, but you know what? We're gonna put that in the maybe. We're gonna do yes, maybe, good to go. I bet most of these will have it, because quite honestly, fusing a round wire to a flat base is a little bit more tricky, although this one also looks pretty good. That looks good. I'm gonna put you in the good to go category. Actually, the bigger ones were a little easier. I can see this one. Oh, this one has a big gap, right? See right here? So we're gonna wanna do this one again. And I'll just quickly look at these. That has a gap. I knew these little ones were going to be, because I was a little hesitant because I didn't want to accidentally melt them. That's not a good look. This one actually looks pretty good. You know what, I'm gonna maybe just do, although this one does look, yep, big fat gap right here. See, right here. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah. So we're going to do all of those. These will be fine. And we're just going to flatten them a little bit, add a little bit more of the fusing liquid just on the outside, and have another go at it. So I'm gonna pull up just a little bit so I don't whack the camera. And it's also not a bad idea to mark where the gaps are so I know where to focus, where I'm looking. So that was really the spot there. So I'm gonna give it a nice little, and then some more fusing liquid, not on the inside, but right around the outside here. And the good news is you don't have to let it dry because it's already mostly fused down. So we'll put that one right there, ready to go. And we're gonna do the same over here. Where was this? So this needed a little bit of everywhere, so a little. This is why we use a slightly thicker wire. So if we press it down, you know, because we're flattening it just a little bit. We won't lose the depth. So I'm going to do this to those three, and then I'll meet you back at the fusing station. I decided to go ahead and redo this second one, this big one, just in case. You know, I don't want to have, best to make sure that all of the wire is properly fused down. So I'm just going to go ahead and go one more time around. A little bit more. Nice bushy flame. And you can see it pulled, there was definitely a gap there because it pulled the fusing liquid through into the center. It's a good indication that you made the right choice. There we go. Beautiful. One more time around. Perfect. Now we'll go on to this next one. When in doubt, go ahead and go a second time. Maybe make an extra link just in case you mess one up. I was thinking as I was doing this, oh, I probably should have done an extra link. But you know, there's a great way to get really good at something is to do it in multiples. So maybe some of you will have a six link bracelet and some will have an 8 because you just had that much more. There we go. See, I'm going to pull it straight forward. Straight, there we go, all the way around and done. I feel good about that. Now we got these little guys. straight through, and done. There we go. See how fast these little guys go. It's a little dance, perfect. Let's move to the next one. And our final little guy. All right, all done. We're gonna let these cool and get everything. We're gonna drill out these holes, saw these, and get them ready for the application of enamels next. So we've got all our pieces fused and ready to get cut out. I'm feeling really good about it. So the first thing that I'm gonna do before I cut out the exterior is we need to drill these holes for the connector bits. And remember, the size drill bit that we used to wrap those little circles is now gonna be the size drill bit we used to saw them out, to drill them out. And the easiest way to drill it is I'm gonna use a little bit of wax and get the wax into that little area. It'll just be a little bit easier. There we go. And you could use a piece of scrap wood. I've got this piece of scrap plexiglass, that'll be just fine. And so we're gonna start by drilling out these 4 holes. There's 1, there's 2, 3, 4. So we've drilled out our nice holes, and we're gonna do a combination of snipping and sawing, just because I'm a little bit lazy. So on the easy way, on the easy side, I'm just gonna use this pair of Fiskars. These aren't even for metal per se, but they work so well with silver. And I'm just gonna cut that end out, save myself a little bit of sawing, because we do have to saw out these edges. And remember, save all of these things, refine them. So I'm gonna go ahead and drill out all of these holes and trim them like that, and then we're gonna get in here and saw out these little shapes right here next. The final step in this video is we need to saw out around these little doodads. And I'm going to be using, it's a really thin wire, so use a really fine blade. This is a 5/0 saw blade. So that's what we're gonna use. We'll see how it works. And you just wanna be really careful that you don't cut these things off. So take your time. This isn't necessarily the funnest thing to do, but you have to be careful. So we're just going to, and remember, you can always file extra off, but you can't add things back in. So we're just going to go over here. I'll have to do a little bit of filing with that side. Oop, right on the floor. There we go. So there's a little bit of filing I need to do, but I'm going to go ahead and cut out all of these. And then we'll do a little bit of sanding on the edges, and that'll do us for today. And here we have it. I have sawn out all these little connector bits, and they are ready for some more finishing before we get to the actual enamel. But this is where I will leave you for today. This is plenty, I think, of work for you guys to work on. I'm super excited to see how this bracelet is going to come together in the next episode, which is all going to be about the wires and the texture and how we're going to address the backs of these little guys. So definitely stay tuned for the next installment of our Sweetheart bracelet. Well, that's enough work for today. And again, I thank you so much for supporting me on my Vimeo channel. It's really a pleasure to make these videos for you. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this bracelet turns out. And again, if you didn't catch it at the beginning, I am doing an Etsy kit for this. There's going to be two options. You can just do the straight up color packs for this, or you can get the deluxe version that will include the silver as well. So check that out. Again, have a great week, everybody. Happy enameling.